Hey, what's up, guys? It's me, TSP, the Spiritual Philanthropist. I am Ravshiva, and we're going to look at some interesting news here. There's been a lot of news now about these things that they're UAPs, UFOs, whatever you want to call them, flying over New Jersey and like flying over military sites and stuff like that, and all this speculation. But before I say anything, let's take a look at the video and see really what's going on. So before we go any further, this is really interesting. This is some pretty good size. They're calling them drones, but if they can stop on a dime and move just like UFOs, do we have technology? It's in Brooklyn, all over New Jersey. You're talking about all over like the city. It looks like all of that part of New York and New Jersey. That's a good.
And the reports vary from specific pattern flights to the multicolored lights in the sky to hovering in particular places to being patterned in the vicinity of critical military or energy infrastructure over residential neighborhoods. The reports vary. I myself stood on my front porch. I overlook a kind of a big mountain valley on Sunday night and saw at least a dozen of these myself. I've seen aircraft fly, commercial aircraft fly in the sky before. These don't appear to be any of those things. They seem to change direction in midair. I'm not trying to feed into the conspiracy theories, but I hear what Admiral Kirby says. A lot of it just doesn't sit right with me. I'm not saying that they're not our assets and necessarily blaming some foreign adversary or some foreign entity, but I think the Admiral's comments today raise as many questions as the activities up till today did, and we still don't have a lot of answers.
Good chunk of areas, but from what I found out, I don't believe it's only there. I believe around the world this is happening more and more often. And the simple fact that he said that, he kind of said that he knows it's not something that we have, or that with the military or anything like that. He's kind of like saying these things. It's kind of making me think and wonder, if they don't know exactly what it is, and no one's really coming out and taking claim for it. Like, there's no Iron Man out there, that Stark Tower, or maybe there is. We just don't know about it. Really, what could this be? I did remember there was Dr. Carol Rosen, who was the assistant to the late great Dr. Werner von Braun, who was the German aeronautical scientist that basically brought ICBMs into existence. Those are intercontinental ballistic missiles that can travel great distances, carry a huge payload as well, or a deadly one. And it was like nuclear-powered, bombs. And these were, nukes that he made the capability of sending them from one continent to the other. And this guy. Had told Werner von Braun had told his assistant, Dr. Carol Rosen, that all these things were going to happen in this order. And so far, we've had the terror attacks, we've had the diseases. There's a few others that we've had the wars in rogue countries. And it said, Dr. Carol Rosen had said that the very last straw would be the UFO invasion. That would be, that there would be a UFO invasion.
Good morning. My name is Carol Rosen. In 1974, after being a sixth grade school teacher, I was introduced to the late Dr. Werner von Braun in the U.S., the father of rocketry. In my first meeting with him, during that first 3.5 hours, he said to me, "Carol, you will stop the weaponization of space." And I said, teachers don't stop until June. He said, "No, you have to understand, this is February, and we have to prevent the weaponization of space because there is a lie being told to everyone that the weaponization of space is now first being based upon the evil empire, the Russians. There are many enemies," he said, "against whom we're going to build this space-based weapon system. The first of whom was the Russians, which was existing at that time. Then there would be terrorists. Then there would be third world countries. Now we call them rogue nations or nations of concern. Then there would be asteroids." And then he would repeat to me over and over, And the last card would be the extraterrestrial threat.
It's the same thing. They double down on their narrative that there's no threat, but then they can't explain why. To the contrary, what they go through is a litany of things that they claim that they don't know. They know that they can't track them. They know that they don't emit a signal. They know that they can't see them when they turn their lights out. They know that they vary in size from a foot or so in circumference to as much as 10 feet. The colonel indicated that they had sent New Jersey State Police helicopters to try to intercept them on a couple of occasions, and when they approach them, they simply go dark and disappear. They also indicated that they don't know where they come from, they don't know where they go to. All of those seem like interesting or odd sort of responses to, as Admiral Kirby said, if they're not drones and they seem to be consistent with manned aircraft, then whose manned aircraft are they?
So they just gave us a lot of information. I had no idea. I didn't really pay attention in the beginning that it wasn't just the state senator. You're talking about the Pentagon, you're talking about Homeland Security. You're talking about, probably the United States Department of Defense. Talking about some of the biggest agencies involved in trying to figure out what these things are. And they are saying that they're all at a loss. They're also saying that when they put helicopters behind them, to go and try and trail them, that they just go off the grid. They disappear into the darkness. So they're saying that the technology is also something unknown, because most likely of its movement and the way it travels, and also the ability to cloak itself. So if they're telling the public this at this point, we're getting this information now, that's kind of like, I think it's a way of preparing the masses for something much bigger to happen. And look, I don't know if there's a Project Bluebeam. If you haven't heard of Project Bluebeam, look it up. It's supposed to be what Dr. Carol Rosin, who is the assistant to Dr. Von Berner, had mentioned and alluded to, saying that the last card would be the alien invasion, and a threat of an alien invasion. That would be the last card. And the last card to what, though? It's like what I think it's. From what I remember, it was for a one world type of government where they really get control of everything and everyone. And, this is a really hard situation to try and, we as just regular civilians don't have the capability of really probing the skies and knowing what's going in and out of the atmosphere at different times. And we have limited understanding, limited information on what's really going on. And much like when there is a natural disaster or something that may be coming our way, we usually get a warning of some sort, right, to prepare us for it. There's a tsunami warning, a hurricane's forming. To me, this is something, because of the nature of it, if there were to be an alien invasion, this would be preparing the masses in some way, in some weird, strange way or another, by this sudden influx of sightings of these craft everywhere, and also the questioning by all these high entities in government and so on. So it's I don't think any of this is by accident. I think this is all pretty much I don't want to say scripted, but it's very close to scripted, because it's just the way it's done. It's leading up to something. It's we're at that point where we're all sitting at the edge of a cliff. What are these things? And then God knows what happens from this point on. But let's take a further look and see what's going on here.
I said from the beginning that I think it's a balancing of answers versus action. If these are American assets, if these are American drones or American manned aircraft, then I think the federal government owes the American people explanations and answers, and we certainly didn't get those yesterday. We didn't get them now. And if they're not ours, then they owe us action. There are obligations to protect and preserve the common defense. So I still think there are a lot of questions that remain unanswered and a lot of things that need to be done. But I don't know that Admiral Kirby did much to help the cause a few minutes ago.
Well, it's something you mentioned there, the fact there are so many unanswered questions. But officials are saying, hey, there's no danger to the public. How can we be sure of that?
Well, I think what came out of this meeting yesterday was, I think there's a distinction between saying there's no danger to the public and we don't know that there's a danger to the public. And I think if you don't know where they're coming, you don't know where they're going to, you don't know what if they carry a payload or are capable of carrying a payload, if they go dark and you can't see them when you approach them. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's no threat. To me, it just means that we don't know whether there is or what it might be.
So yeah, guys, this was definitely worth something to discuss. More people should be talking about this because he just mentioned so many, important factors of, which I had mentioned earlier about. This is my first time seeing this, but remember right before this part, I had mentioned about Dr. Werner von Braun creating ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles that can travel across continent in a very short period of time and deliver heavy payloads. He just said that that's the thing that they should fear. I think he's right. I think he's 100% right that if, the government can't control these things, you have no way of tracking them or anything, they just disappear whenever they're approached and they're untrackable or untraceable. There's definitely something to worry about there. So I don't know what's going on, but I can tell you a part of me is excited, but a part of me is also a little in fear because we don't know what these things are, So guys, I'll be putting a lot more videos out like this and probing deep into them, like I do in a lot of my videos. If you guys like what I do, please hit that like and subscribe button. That helps the algorithms to help me out a great deal, and believe me, I really need the help because I'm going to put a video out shortly that's going to show what I've gone through in the last 20 years after a certain event here in the United States, and also some articles that I've written that I believe I was the cause for the Facebook CEOs to come out and admit to the public something that they were doing wrong. But, I'll get that video out there very soon, and please, help me out by hitting that like button and sharing my video and subscribing, and I will be making a lot more videos for you guys. So hang tight, stay safe, and I'll see you very shortly.